Geography, 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 geography. Oh yeah, who's ready for some geography? Duchess, I know you're ready for some geography. Come on in, dog. Let's talk about some geography from a fictional story about magical pirates. Come on. Okay, Duchess, you have fun. Okay, hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry here, back again, and today we're talking about geography's best friend, other than history. Geography has a lot of best friends, okay? It's the one force in the world that truly connects us all. Geography's other best friend, maps. That's right. Now, it's important to keep in mind before we continue any further, you can have geography without a map, but you can't have a map without geography, okay? It's just not practical. Also, my name is Matt, which kind of sounds like map, so hence why the obsession with geography. In fact, I'm working on this D&D homebrew campaign right now, and I'm thinking about including a magical item called the Scepter of Geography. I'm not really sure what it's going to do yet, but it's going to be called the Scepter of Geography. It's going to have a staff with a globe on the end of it, so, I don't know, leave a comment down below on how broken I can make that thing. Alright, so Artur tweeted today that we're getting a new One Piece. I hesitate to call it a data book because the official term for it is a travel guide. So this is the first ever One Piece travel guide. Anyway, it's called Rurubu One Piece. Lulubu One Piece. Yeah, here's a picture of it. But at any rate, it's going to be released on March 4th over in Japan, and it's actually pretty interesting what the concept is. They're going to be taking the islands that the Straw Hats have visited, maybe not every single one, but they're going to show, like, the inspiration that Oda took to create those islands. So, for example, Water 7 is based off of the city of Venice, so there'll be all these little fun facts about Venice, and maybe Oda will put some stuff in there of, like, why he decided to base Water 7 off of that, and, you know, drawing the islands and sketches and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, and then you also get to see pictures of the locations. Alabasta is going to be in there too, and that's obviously based off of the, you know, Middle Eastern countries and Egypt as well, with the whole idea with the mythology, you know, like the guardian spirit being the falcon, therefore Pell, you know, so that's actually going to be pretty cool to look through that. Maybe that'll get an English release. Oh, by the way, I should also mention another thing that's One Piece related that's getting an English release this fall, I think, is the Sanji cookbook. Yeah, so they released a cookbook of all the different meals that Sanji has made and other stuff from the One Piece world, or inspired by the One Piece world, and a fan of mine actually sent me the Japanese version, but it is getting an English release, so that'll be pretty cool, because I love to cook, so if I get my hands on that coming into late 2021, maybe we can do a video where I cook some One Piece dishes, you know, put on the Sanji hat or whatever. That'd be pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, Rurubu One Piece also included something very fascinating that Artur shared, and that is a map of the One Piece world! Oh my god, look how glorious it is! Now I'm super pumped for this, as you can well imagine, because here's the thing. We do not get a lot of official maps from the One Piece world a lot, and whenever we do, they're like maybe more for aesthetic rather than for practical purpose. If you ever get isekai'd into the One Piece world, I need to have a map to know exactly how far one island is from the other. But my point is, like, this is one map from the East Blue that we got from a data book years ago, and as you can see looking at it, it does show, you know, the Goa Kingdom and Fuchsia and, you know, Syrup Village and the Baratier and everything. Logtown is strangely absent from this one, but Kokoyashi Village is there and everything, but beyond that, it doesn't actually give us a lot of information. It just kind of really looks cool. You know, I want a map, Oda. I want something to actually reveal all the locations, you know, even islands and towns that we've never been to before, to really flesh out the One Piece world. Now, there's a lot of fan-made maps that you can find out there on the internet, and even like 3D renders of the entire globe that I've seen, where fans have painstakingly, you know, looked through every single island, every single town, every continent, well, okay, every single continent, so one, the red line, every location in the One Piece world, Sky Islands, places that exist like the Goldfish Empire that are on the ocean floor. They take everything together and try to make it work in a single globe, so those are really cool, and I would suggest you go check those out. I'll leave some links to those in the description below. But in terms of official maps, other than Oda, like drawing the island that the Straw Hats are currently on, like we have a map of Wano or a map of Alabasta when the Straw Hats were there. Other than that, I really don't think Oda has ever actually sat down and given us a comprehensive map of the entire world, right? As in like every location that we know about or has been mentioned. Even with this map right here from Rurubu One Piece, it is official and it is being published by Shueisha, but I don't actually know if Oda himself like drew this, drew like a rough sketch of this, and they just cleaned it up and made it look like this. It's possible they could have had somebody else in the department like just look it up and draw this. Yeah, I'm not really sure how it worked. But at any rate, let's go through the map today and see some stuff that I liked and didn't like about it. Right away, I will say this, is that I was kind of disappointed that other than the East Blue, which is where the story begins, there's none of the other locations in any of the other blues. Even the locations like the Straw Hats got sent to by Kuma, like Chopper got sent to the Torino Kingdom in the South Blue, that's not on this map. Tequila Wolf, where Robin got sent, that's not, being shown on this map. So, if anything, it's more like a timeline of the Straw Hats' journey, which makes sense given that this is a One Piece, travel guide, data book. But in terms of like an accurate map of all the locations that exist, it is not, unfortunately. And even in terms of a timeline, it's really not that great because they do skip certain islands that the Straw Hats have been to, like the ones Kuma sent. So you don't see the Boeing Islands in the Grand Line or Karakuri Island or anything like that. So that's a little bit disappointing here. But at any rate, so let's start with the East Blue. It is rather interesting to mention, I will say this, that I always assumed like the Red Line was just that one singular continent, and may still very well be the case, but in the case with the East Blue and a lot of the other blues, we see some really large land masses here, like pretty big ones. Now, it could maybe be something similar to like Greenland in our world, where we have these really big islands, but they're not considered continents. Maybe something similar to that, because I think it has been stated in the One Piece world before, there's only one continent, and that is the Red Line. So these really large land masses that you're seeing in the East Blue, there's another big one that you see in the South Blue, that look, at least on this map, that they're not directly connected to the Red Line. I guess the one at the very top of the East Blue, maybe it could connect to the Red Line, and the same thing with maybe the one in the South, but they just look like really large islands that are their own land masses in that right. Maybe they might be made out of the red rock, of the Red Line. Maybe it broke off and stuff. I don't really know exactly. We really haven't traveled to most of these locations. Goa Kingdom is located on one of these islands. Same thing with Kokoyashi. But like in terms of like exploring the entire region, we've never really done that. That's why I would have liked it to be like, hey, what's the deal with that giant island north of Kokoyashi? Is that the Oikot Kingdom where Nami was found? I would have liked it to be like included that, so we don't, unfortunately. We see the Baratier floating in the middle of the ocean. That makes sense. We also get the names of certain islands, because like we have Orange Town, which is on the Organ Islands, and we have Syrup Village, which is on the Gecko Islands. Goa Kingdom, Fuchsia Village, that's on Dawn Island. And then we have the Konomi Islands, which is where Kokoyashi is, all the way down to the Polestar Islands near the Grand Line, which is where Logtown is. I find this very fascinating because a lot of those island names were only revealed in like data books from like years, like decades ago, right? So the fact they included like the Polestar Islands, that's really fun because I don't think that's ever been mentioned in the actual manga that Logtown was on the Polestar Islands. It might have been, but the fact they included that got some points from me. Also, keep in mind there are limits to the map itself. Like they don't want to make the text too small, so if they included everything in the entire story, every island, every location, especially when you get to the Grand Line, because the Grand Line is so clustered on that one line right there, including every single island, not just the ones the Straw Hats have went to, but also the ones that have been like name dropped by like the Revolutionary Army sometimes, and like the Vacation Island where Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week were at, including every single island there might have made the text a little bit too crammed for the book, and so they wanted to go with aesthetic, of course, because this is like a One Piece collector's item. I get that. To really make it make sense, you would have to come up with some like giant like poster that could be a map, but I'm not sure how they would market that or sell that. I mean, I would buy it in a heartbeat, right? But maybe having something to just fit in a data book or a travel guide, that's they want to just keep it simple, so it's like just keep it to the islands the Straw Hats have actually visited on their journey, not every single one. Although it is funny when you look at the Grand Line, they did include Nothing at All Island, Nani Monai Island, which is the island that was stated to be the feces of the giant goldfish, the island eater, that attacked the crew when they were leaving Little Garden. It's like that thing's poop is so big, it's actually an island into itself, okay? But anyway, they don't go there, but it is interesting they included that one of all things, right? So the first half of the Grand Line, Paradise, that pretty much has every single thing that we've already established in the story. They do not name the islands, so it's Whiskey Peak on Cactus Island, but they don't actually say Cactus Island there, they just say Whiskey Peak. Interesting, we have Jaya and Skypiea, but next to that we actually have Berka. So, or Bierka, I think is the proper pronunciation there. I always say Bricka because the joke is Barry is a Bricken, hence the wings, but I think it's actually pronounced like Bierka, so sorry about that. It's the name of like a Viking village way back in the day that was like really popular. At any rate, we actually get to see that on the map, so that's pretty cool. I don't think this map, in terms of scale, is perfectly accurate, like how far each island is, or maybe the size of the islands are a little bit off. But as for, like, the general locations, like, you know, Jaya comes after Alabasta, which comes after Drum Island, they got that pretty much down. So in that case, looking at this map right here, Bierka is a little bit beyond Skypiea off to the side, so that's pretty cool. Maybe someday we'll actually get maybe another reference to that when Eneru ever comes back, like the fate of Bierka, like what happened to it. Also, does that confirm the island of Bierka is still around? Because it was stated that Eneru destroyed it when he left. I just assumed he used like the Raiga technique, but I think Raiga can only be used with the Maxim, and he didn't have the Maxim back then, so he might have just like used his electrical powers to like, you know, burn it to the ground, but the island itself still survived, and they might have even rebuilt it after Eneru left, and after he went to the moon, it's like, all right, let's rebuild our homeland of Bierka, which is where the priests were from. Aruj was also probably from that location, hence, you know, his wings are pointing downward as well. So, yeah, it's very interesting they included Bierka on this map. That's pretty cool. I will mention also something is that the whole idea of the map even being laid out like this is not 100% accurate, and I used to think this for years, because this is the maps we always used to see of the world, and the world of One Piece is always depicted like this, but if you want to make any actual sense out of this, and actually like the North Blue being in the north and the South Blue being in the south, you gotta turn the planet, and it looks like an X. I understand the irony there, you know, pirates, treasure, X, you know, with the Grand Line and the Red Line circling around from diagonals, but if you do it like that, okay, then North, South, East, and West Blue actually makes sense in that regard. Something else that you might actually see on these maps, on the top and the bottom, you see the kanji for, I believe, the North Pole at the top, or the northernmost land, and then the southernmost land on the bottom, just these two simple kanji, okay? Something else that doesn't make any sense, if the planet is actually shifted on an axis kind of like our planet, and it's like spinning that way, that would make the North Pole in the North Blue, and then the South Blue at the very bottom of the South Blue, not on the red line as it's being depicted right here. So that's just something else I wanted to bring up, something of note there. I think that's everything in Paradise. Moving on now to the New World, which is where things get very interesting. So you see here in the New World, there's actually some locations that are marked with question marks, meaning that the Straw Hats have never actually been there, so their true locations might be a bit ambiguous. At the beginning of the New World, right after the Red Line, we have Risky Red Island, Mysterion Island, and Raijin Island. I'm also kind of intrigued that they put those ones in there. The Straw Hats never went to those, but it's weird that they included them on the map. And maybe they just wanted to fill out the New World a little bit more because we don't have as many islands from there as Paradise. So those islands are located at the beginning of the Grand Line. It was stated that when you leave Fishman Island, the log pose is going to point to one of those islands as the new route. Now, the Straw Hats bypassed all of that and went to Punk Hazard, which is also located on this map. And then after Punk Hazard, we of course have Dressrosa, Greenbit. Oh, the Prudence Kingdom is included on here. That's led by King Elizabello II. Okay, so it was stated that Prudence and Dressrosa were allies back before the days that Doflamingo took over. When it was King Riku running the show, it was Riku and Isabello that were really good friends that came to aid the kingdoms every now and then. Like, they were good pals, and so it makes sense that the Prudence Kingdom would be relatively close to Dressrosa. And it seems like it's a grouping of islands, so it's it's not like one big island like Dressrosa is. It's like a bunch of islands that make up the Province Kingdom. So that's pretty cool to talk about that there. After that, we have Apple9 Island, which is the island that was only shown in like one chapter. After the birdcage was disengaged on Dressrosa, Apple9 Island was stated to be one of the islands surrounding Dressrosa. That was the first island to receive the distress calls from Dressrosa itself on what was all going on there, okay? And Apple9 Island has a giant apple mountain, so it's interesting that they included that island of all things, right? It's cool. It's like some islands that only appeared once that the Straw Hats never visited are on the map and others are not. Anyway, after Apple9 Island, we have Zoe, which is just a wandering elephant. Then we have Totland and the Whole Cake Island, which is kind of located right in the middle, like the halfway point of the New World if we're going by this scale. But after Whole Cake Island, this is where things get really fun, okay? So we have Wano Kuni, which is clearly labeled right here, Wano Kingdom, or Wano Kuni. But then we have 3 additional islands that are charted on the map, but are given question marks because the Straw Hats have not been there yet, and once again, their exact location relative to Wano might be ambiguous. But we get Sphinx Island, Hachinosu, and Elbath. Yeah, so this might be actually giving us a little bit of foreshadowing into what's coming up next. Now, Hachinosu Island, which is the home base, the pirate paradise, which is where Blackbeard's at right now, that makes sense to be relatively close to Wano, because Blackbeard stated like he had like a spy in Wano, so it made sense that it's relatively close to that. Sphinx Island also makes sense because that's where Marco was at, and also where Nekomamushi went to go find him, and they immediately went to Wano after visiting Sphinx Island, which is where Whitebeard grew up with that hidden village. That also makes sense. And I think a lot of people were all hypositing that Elbath was going to be the next island the Straw Hats visit after Wano. So Elbath, on this map anyway, is located right after Wano. I mean, I know, yeah, it might not be that big of a shocker, because like I said, a lot of people assumed that's what was going to happen next, considering, you know, we're kind of nearing the end of the story now, and they haven't been there yet, and Usopp needs to go there at some point. Plus, we got the whole flashback with Big Mom. So, yeah, I think a lot of people figured, yeah, Elbath was going to come up next. It might not be as long of an arc as like Dressrosa or Wano, but it should be next. And so this map anyway does state, like, after the Straw Hats leave Wano and they sail away from that place, they might be running into Elbath, or the Hachinosu, I guess, for that matter. But, you know, we'll see where that goes. Finally, we have an island that is located right at the tail end of the New World. Now, it's important to mention Laugh Tale is not charted on this island. Even as a question mark, they don't even bother with that, okay? Which makes sense, because it's kind of hidden. But the last island in the Grand Line is not given a question mark. It is marked right here, Lodestar Island, or maybe Roadstar Island, because you're the star of the road, you know? This was the island that Roger stated was the last island that the log pose points to. Like, if you just follow the regular log pose through the magnetic charges, eventually all routes will lead you to Roadstar or Lodestar Island, okay? And that's actually the location that you find out that it's not the last location. That's the location where you find out that there's another hidden island somewhere in the world that would later be called Laugh Tale. Roger's the one that named it, or gave it that name. It might have had a different name before that. And then after he visited Lodestar, he's like, I need to find these road poneglyphs and seek out the true final island. I just find this really fascinating because typically, whenever you see a fan-made map of the One Piece world, that is usually the location right there, right behind Reverse Mountain on the opposite end, where they would put Laugh Tale. And so it kind of ended up being true, but not. That is the last island right there, but it's not Laugh Tale, it's Lodestar, okay? And that also kind of gives us the idea that you're going to have to do some backtracking here, okay? So you go in like one straight line, or maybe not a straight line, it's kind of crooked a little bit, but eventually you follow that log pose and you're going to hit Roadstar or Lodestar Island, and then you gather together all of the different road poneglyphs, right? And then it's like, okay, now Laugh Tale is at these coordinates, you might have to go back to the first half of the Grand Line. Wouldn't that be funny if that's the way Oda did it? Like, yes, the mysterious location of Laugh Tale this whole time was not in the New World. It was actually back in Paradise, hidden away in a mysterious part of the sea that no one goes to, or there's a reason you can't gain access to it. It's probably going to be in the New World because it's been mentioned multiple times. One Piece is in the New World. The island that he went to, Laugh Tale's in the New World. But who knows? It could always be a big shocker moment, a big twist at the end of the day. Like, oh wait, actually, it turns out that Lodestar points to, the road poneglyphs you find out about on Lodestar point to the East Blue. That's where Laughtail was the whole time. It's probably going to be in the New World, but it's not charted on this map. But it's probably not going to be after Lodestar, because that's just Reverse Mountain at that point. So it might be in that space right there in between Elbaf and Lodestar Island. That might be the general location where Laughtail is, but we just have no idea, okay? So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about the map. I am disappointed that they didn't include, like, Spider Miles or the Flevens Kingdom or, you know, Minion Island, because we know those locations in there in the North Blue, and the North Blue is just kind of blank here on this map. You had space to put them in, you know. I guess I don't know why they didn't do that. We know about a few locations in the West, like where O'Hara used to be. You know, that would have been interesting if you included in the West Blue. You didn't have to name it, but you could have put an island, and you could have just had Shank's hometown and then question mark, like, you know, Shanks grew up in the West, so like, oh, he was born in the West, so what about that island? What about the Torino Kingdom from the South Blue? What about Batteria? The Batteria, I always mispronounce that word. The island where Rouge gave birth to Ace. You know, you could have marked that on the map. So I'm a little bit disappointed in the 4 blues and how they were kind of shown here. But in terms of like an actual map, it looks beautiful, right? And it is a little bit more practical than like the more aesthetic-based ones that we got before. And like I said, we don't get a lot of official maps very often, so this is a very welcoming thing. And I might get this. I might even get the Rurubu One Piece, maybe as like an import or something, even though it's in Japanese, like I did with the Vivra cards, because this looks like a pretty cool collector's edition that I would like to have, because it's all about geography, of course. But at any rate, if you live in Japan and you want to pick it up, March 4th is the release date for that. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, for this edition of Geography is Everything. I know we focused more on maps than geography, but remember, geography, maps, but maps without geography, that just doesn't work. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching. This will be Tekking and Barry and CloneBerry001. Hey, you didn't fall down this time. Good job. Damn it. All right, have a good one, everybody. Later.